Hello everyone, it's Rouge Raven, and I have finished my Nifty Knitter baby hat. And I usually don't bother measuring anymore. I kind of just measure it by the size of my hand. If it can come from the bottom of my palm to about my pinky, that means it's about the right size, so far as I can tell. So I finished up, and now what I have to do is I have to cut off my yarn from my Nifty Knitter. I'm going to give myself about a 3-inch tail. And now I need to also cut about a foot of yarn, one string of yarn. And this is going to go into my needle. I use a plastic needle because it can bend. It can go up through my pegs. And that's why the pegs have the divots, so the needle can follow its way through without totally destroying the loom. So I'm going to take my yarn and leave myself a little extra tail. And I'm going to come up through the first loop, just like that. And I'm going to hold on to the bottom. I'm going to go around the loom, just coming up and through each of my little yarn loops. Once this is over, we'll use the Nifty Knitter hook to take off all these little loops, and we're going to use the thread as a drawstring to tie the top of the hat closed. And the Nifty Knitter book, they tell you to use a pom-pom somehow to end the hat, which is fine, I guess, for the younger babies, but as kids get older, they have a lot of a stronger grip, so they can actually just rip off that pom-pom and pop it in their mouths. So I usually forego that step. It'd be okay with older kids when they're not putting stuff in their mouths anymore, but I donate these to Pine Ridge Reservation up in South Dakota, especially for newborns, and so I don't bother putting the pom-poms on. It also helps me save yarn, so I'm able to make more hats. And as you see, my yarn just came out of my thread, so I'm just going to put it right back in there and continue around. And as you can see, it would be a lot harder with a sharper, non-bendable needle. That's where a lot of my scratches on my loom came from. It's kind of hard to tell from here. But if you cut your yarn too short, like I did, you can't. Well, maybe I'll be able to make it through. But supposing that you didn't cut your yarn long enough, you can just hold it right where you are and start with your pick, and you're going to go around. And be careful to not let this fall out. And you're just going to lift the loops off of the pegs. Just like that. It's just important to make sure that your yarn stays inside of these loops, because it's going to be a lot harder to get the thread back in once they come off the loom. And so if you hadn't cut enough yarn to thread all the way through, you can just pull it a bit tight right now. You can see how it's starting to gather already from pulling it. And just finish up your last couple of loops. And once you're done threading the yarn through the loops, you can just take your needle off your yarn. And hold on to all your strands at the end and finish pulling these off. Okay. So now your hat is free of your loom. Okay, so as you can see, the threads all throughout our loops, and we have 4 strands that are hanging off the end of our hat. We have our 2 strands which are going through the top little loop fuzzy thingies, and then we have the 2 strands from the actual knitting. So first we're going to worry about the drawstring. You're going to take the 2 strands of thread or 2 strands of yarn that are throughout your loops, and you're going to pull it like you would pull a drawstring change purse. You're going to pull it nice and tight. There's your knitting string, and you are going to tie a square knot. It's the first step of tying your shoes twice. So you crisscross and pull under once, nice and tight. And then you crisscross and pull under again. And then to finish up, I take 2 strands and 2 strands from our drawstring and from our knitting, and I also do a square knot with these. pulling nice and tight. And then I'm going to cut these to leave about an inch worth of yarn. And then I'm going to take a crochet hook. I'm not educated in crocheting, and that's why I nifty knit, so I'm not really sure what size goes with what yarn. I just use whatever works. And this doesn't leave gaping holes in my hats with the yarn I use, so I use, it looks like an H8500 millimeter, I guess. 5 millimeter Okay, so I'm going to come up through my hat, and I'm going to find a stitch that is reasonably close to the first 2 strands of yarn, and I'm going to just pull them through. So now they're inside my hat. And I'm going to do it again with these other 2 strands. And now I don't have my yarn hanging outside of my hat. Now, if you remember, we changed the color of our yarn throughout the middle of the hat. And so I have all this gunk, all these strands in the middle. So I'm going to turn my hat inside out. And like I said, I'm not really educated on crocheting, so I'm sure there's going to be some crocheting artist or yarn artist out there who's going to tell me I'm doing it wrong. So this is just how I do it, and this seems to work out well for me. When you change yarn, you see that you have the different color yarns that they actually match up, and they leave these holes in your crocheting. So I'm sure you're supposed to crochet this up through the hat or something, but I'm lazy, and I think this actually closes up the hole better. I do a square knot, which is again the first step of your shoes repeated. So I just do that, just crisscrossing it and bringing it under. I'm doing that same process again. Okay, and then I'm going to just cut these fairly short. And these aren't huge knots, so they shouldn't bother the baby's head. Okay, turn it right side out again. And there's our hat. And you will notice that this is the bottom string from when we did the slip stitch onto our side peg. And so what I'm going to do now is actually crochet this in. I'm just going to weave it in and out through this these rows right here. So I'm going to take my crochet hook and come up, and you can see where that stitch is. I'm just going to bring it up and through, and I'll just do this for maybe 4 or 5 stitches, just bringing it in and out, weaving it in so that it's not the very end and bothering the baby, not dangling in its eyes. So I'm just going to go up and through, and I'm going to end with it on the inside of the hat, and then I'll just cut it short. Okay. Okay, so there's the inside of our hat now. And I'm just going to trim that a bit, long enough so it's not going to unravel itself and come out through where I just crocheted it in. So there's our baby hat. It's cute, it's tiny, and it's ready to go. So I hope this helped, and let me know what else you want to see. So I'll see you then.